I want to begin today by acknowledging that our convention is taking place on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people, including those from the Chippewa and Ojibwe nations. This place we now call Bracebridge was shared by many peoples, including the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee peoples of Turtle Island. As Terry told us this morning, it is our responsibility and honor to take care of this land for generations to come. And Terry's words reminded me of an indigenous proverb that means a great deal to me. Treat the earth well. It was not given to you by your parents. It was loaned to you by your children. And so I want to take a moment right now to thank my two daughters, Isabel and Beata, and my wife, Sandy, for being willing to loan me to the Green Party of Ontario. I know it's not always fun, but I couldn't do this job without your support and love, so thank you. I have a number of individuals I want to thank, but I'm going to do that later tonight at the gala dinner. So for now, I want to thank each and every one of you from the bottom of my heart. I want to thank our members, our supporters, our donors, our volunteers, and our staff, because you have made a tremendous difference in the province of Ontario. Your actions, your activism, and the work you've done has changed this province for the better. And you deserve an applause for the work you've done. So thank you. You know, I think one of the things that I'm the most proud of as leader of this party is that we have delivered policy changes at Queen's Park unprecedented for a party without a seat in the legislature. Your work, it's your work, has made all the difference. It has made Ontario a better place. And I want you to know that unfortunately our work is far from finished. Because the people of Ontario need you. They need you to change politics. And so we have 376 days to do just that. And so, as we think forward, I want to take a moment to think backwards. And I want to thank you for the difference you've made, even in the last 2-3 years since the last provincial election. You know, in the 2014 election, we were the only party to call for protecting bees and liberating local beer. I want to tell you a story that a lot of people don't know this. Some of you know this, but you know what? Some very powerful interest groups push back against us. As a matter of fact, the beer store threatened to sue me and the party if I ever called them the foreign beer store monopoly again. But this is something I want to make very clear to you and to the people of Ontario. We will always put the people of this province and the local businesses of this province ahead of powerful interest groups. Yeah. And so because of you, because of the petitions you got people to sign, the letters you encourage people to write, we now have a provincial government that is committed to lowering neonicotinoid pesticides by 80%. And we have, not fully, but we have partially liberated local beer in this province. So thank you. For decades, this party has led the charge on climate action. As a matter of fact, when I would go to Queen's Park, there was this person, he was an environmental commissioner. I believe his name was Gord Miller. And he would issue reports outlining the climate challenges we are facing and saying that it was absolutely essential that this province put a price on carbon pollution in order to tackle climate change. And after he'd give his little talk, all the politicians would go out of the media studio and we'd scrum with the media. And I would look them in the face and say, you know what, we need political leadership in this legislature that has the courage to be honest with the people of Ontario, that we need to listen to the environmental commissioner and put a price on carbon pollution. And you know what the other parties would do? They would hightail it out of there and say no comment to the media. And that is the kind of leadership that is putting Ontario behind. And you know what? You can be proud of the fact that as of January 1st of this year, Ontario now has a price on carbon pollution, and it's because of your activism. You know, the government did not adopt the most effective climate policy that we would have chosen. Right. But you know what? I don't think they would have put a price on carbon pollution if it hadn't been for the decades of activism by Green Party members across this province. I want to thank you for that. But most importantly, what I want to thank you for is for standing up and saying, we will get big money out of politics in this province. You know, last year, I would say it's unprecedented that a political party without a seat in the legislature would actually sit down with the premier, write the legislation, frame the messaging around it, make the case that we need to move from a pay-to-play to a vote-to-play system because that's more fair for our democracy and for our people. And then shepherd that legislation through committee and not only advocate for what the Green Party wanted, but actually cooperate and collaborate, not only with the three parties at Queen's Park, but actually I reached out to every single registered party in this province, and I said, I want your input on how we should reform fundraising in Ontario. And that, to me, is the kind of leadership this province needs. So I'm going to be unlike most political opposition leaders who only seem to be able to figure out ways to criticize their opponents. And I'm going to give a shout out to the Premier. You know what? It took a real leader to actually sit down and listen to somebody like me and to look at the thousands of signatures that you all collected and that I brought to her and say, you know what? We will listen and we will take action. And so I want the Premier to know, I want to put the Premier on notice that we are now going to keep fighting until we protect water in this province. Premier, water is for life, not for profit. And we will work tirelessly until this province finally changes the water taking rules to put water for communities first. And so I just want to do a shout out to everyone who's been knocking on doors on this issue. And I want to say to the people of Ontario, think about all this party has accomplished without a seat at Queen's Park. Imagine what we will accomplish with MPPs at Queen's Park. And so my commitment to you is that we are going to continue to work hard to first earn your trust, then earn your respect, and then we will earn your vote. And the reason we will earn your vote is because Ontario needs real change. You know what? The climate crisis is already here and affecting far too many people. Too many people in Ontario have to choose between putting food on the table and paying their electricity bill. Many of the young people in this room can barely afford to pay sky-high rents, let alone have the dream of owning a home. Inequality is on the rise to unacceptable levels. Too many people are being stopped in the streets of our province simply because of the color of their skin. Rural schools are closing. Special needs kids are being sent home because our schools don't have the resources they need. You know, the rest of the world is embracing renewable energy at the exact same time Ontario's canceling its renewable energy programs in order to rebuild nuclear plants. Our farmland is being lost at unsustainable rates, and our wetlands are being paved over. And corporations are taking our water and our natural resources at fire sale prices. And I want to say that this has to change. And with your help, it will change. But you know what? It's not going to happen if voters hand power to the same politicians from the same old parties. No. So what Ontario needs is real change that people can count on, a whole new way of doing politics. And that's what the Green Party believes. We bring leadership to the table that puts people first, ahead of political self-interest. Leadership that's going to foster a political culture in this province that acts on good ideas regardless of which party puts those ideas forward. Greens are ready to provide this leadership. And part of why I think we're ready to provide it is because I love this place, and I know you love this place. I love the people and places that make Ontario such a wonderful place to grow up and raise a family, to live, to work. I love the Niagara Escarpment and the Speed River, the boreal forests, the rich farmland, the Great Lakes, the diversity of our people, and so much more. And it pains me, like it literally pains me to feel it threatened and to see it threatened by politicians who put special interests ahead of the public interest. And so I'm proud. I'm proud to lead a party that puts honesty and integrity and good public policy that works for people ahead of our own self-interest. Greens have and we will continue to work tirelessly to defend this place, our home, our province, our planet. So I want to ask you a question. Will you stand with me? Will you stand with me to defend the people and places that we love in Ontario? Will you stand with me to champion 21st century jobs?
Yes, Mike, I'll stand with you.
Thank you, but I'm not done yet, folks. Will you stand with me to support small businesses?
Yeah!
Will you stand with me to put honest solutions forward to how to fund transit in this province?
Yes!
Will you stand with me to put people ahead of Bay Street bankers?
Yes!
And can we ask why the Liberals always seem to put bankers ahead of people in their policies?
Shame.
So I'm asking, will you stand with me to oppose the sell-off of our public assets like Hydro One that benefits Bay Street bankers? Will you stand with me to support climate policies that put money in your pocket and not the pocket of Bay Street traders?
Yes!
Will you stand with me to oppose the Premier's $45 billion Band-Aid on her hydro plan that will not solve our electricity problems? And will you stand with me to say no to the nuclear industry's 180% price increase to rebuild Darlington?
Yes!
Will you stand with me to say yes to a 100% renewable energy future?
Yes!
Will you stand with me to say yes to putting our kids first ahead of duplication and waste in our education system?
Yes!
Will you stand with me to support a basic income guarantee?
Yes!
Will you stand with me and sign the Food and Water First policy to protect our farmland and source water regions in Ontario?
Yes!
And so, my friends, I will ask you one more time. Will you stand with me to change politics in Ontario forever? So, I think Gord said that it's springtime. The grass is greening, the leaves are turning green, and people want a new kind of politics. And I think people are tired. They're kind of tired of the existing government. And they want something different. But the one thing we can't allow them to do is turn this province brown. Because I believe people want a green future. And you're seeing it all across the country. You're seeing it in Prince Edward Island, where Peter Beavenbaker is now the most popular political leader on the island. You're seeing it in New Brunswick, where David Coon has brought a whole new way of doing politics to their legislature. And we've all seen it in Ottawa, where Elizabeth May is completely changing the way politics is done in our national capital. And I tell you, on the West Coast, the BC Greens, forming the first Green Caucus in North America, has shown that people want to vote green and will vote green even in our outdated first-past-the-post political system. And so I want to know, will you help me bring this green wave to Ontario? Will you commit? Will you commit to this movement over the next 376 days? I want to be really clear, though. That this work is actually not about electing Mike Schreiner. It's quite frankly not even about electing Greens, to be honest with you. This is more about a movement to change politics. You know, people have told me, Sandy probably more than anyone, that almost everything I've done in my life has seemed impossible to most people. Seriously. You know, I started one of Ontario's first local organic food businesses over 20 years ago in Guelph. And I started an NGO 10 years later to bring local sustainable food to public institutions that spend ridiculously low amounts of money on food for people. And then I became leader of the Green Party of Ontario. And people asked me, especially Sandy, Mike, why do you keep choosing these huge challenges? And my response to that is that nothing that's ever been worth doing has been easy.
Yeah.
I have a handwritten note on my desk that I look at every morning. And it says, and it's a reminder to me, it says, I want to be elected choosing the right road, not the easy road. And so, While the political pundits and the professional politicians tell me that it's not possible to get elected if you put honesty and integrity and policies that work for people ahead of your own partisan self-interest or the political games and spin, that it's impossible for people like you to get elected. And my response, in the same way that our green cousins in BC responded, is that we refuse to play that game because we are going to change your game. And so that's why I need you to stand with me, because it's not going to be easy. And I know I've asked a lot of many of you in this room over the last few years. And so I'm going to ask a little bit more. And before I ask, I want to be clear that I will never compromise my honesty or my integrity to get elected. So if you're going to put in your time and your talent and your treasure to this movement, you need to know that we're going to do it the right way, not the easy way. So I'm going to ask you to go out and earn your neighbor's trust, earn their respect, and maybe we'll just earn their vote. And if we bring a new kind of politics to this province, I believe that on June 7th, 2018, we will change Ontario forever, and we will elect Ontario's first Green MPP. Thank you.
Well, thank you.